What better time than to watch this Friday Bill and Ted's Face the Music? I grew up with these movies. I was 9 years old when Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure came out, and then 91, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. It's awesome, and the stakes are higher than ever for the time-traveling exploits of this movie coming up on Friday called Bill and Ted's Face the Music. I want to play you a little clip of the preview of this movie. Check it out.
Bill, we've spent our whole life trying to unite the world, and I'm tired, dude.
Ted, we have a destiny to fulfill.
Whoa!
Greetings, my excellent friends. We have a problem.
They have kids in this movie. It's great. They're getting old. So the guy who's played Bill, of course, Ted was, of course, Keanu Reeves. The guy who played Bill joins us right, and playing Bill in this movie that comes out on Friday is none other than Alex Winter. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Alex?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So, Alex, the first big question I got to ask you is, why did it take almost 30 years to make this movie?
Well, funnily enough, it actually took 10 years, which is still a very long time. For the previous 20 years, I don't think a single one of us had any intention of making a third movie.
Why is that?
Well, we really love making the films. We've always made each one very much just focused on that one movie and packing it with as much stuff as possible. And we don't really look beyond it. And Keanu and I have been close friends for a long time, and we finished two, and both of us very much moved on with our lives. But the writers, Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, they pitched us an idea for three about 10 years ago that we thought was really hilarious, and basically became, the movie that we just made. This idea of, like, what if it's almost like a garage band movie. What if you picked up with Bill and Ted all these years later? They had wives, they had kids, they had responsibilities, but they really hadn't put the guitars down, and they probably should have a while ago.
I can't wait. That's such a funny concept. I can't wait to see this movie. It opens on Friday. All right, so before we get to more specifics in this movie, take me back, if you will. Let's go back to 1978. Alex Winter in 1978, right? You moved to New York with your family, and then you're acting on Broadway, and then you get a big break to be in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Can you talk to me a little bit about that break that you got, and did you ever think that it would become, what it is today?
Yeah, I mean, I had been acting professionally since I was a little kid. I had done a lot of stuff before Bill and Ted. The first big movie break I had was a film called Lost Boys, which I did in 1987, the Joel Schumacher movie. Big vampire movie, and that was a ton of fun, and that was kind of my foray into Hollywood. And on the heels of that, I auditioned for Bill and Ted, and honestly, it was a little movie. It was an independent movie. We'd never really, none of the people involved had done anything that, very big. But Bill and Ted, when we made it, really wasn't big. It was a pretty grassroots thing, and the way it happened, the studio we made it for went bankrupt, so the film sat on a shelf for a year. So Keanu and I just kind of moved on. We've become really good friends, so we stayed friends, but neither of us, we were told, frankly, the film was never going to come out. So
wow.
A full year, yeah, it was crazy. A full year later, the film was bought out of bankruptcy for a song, and they tested it, and it tested through the roof. And suddenly this thing that we'd just completely given up on was all over the place.
That's incredible.
So it was an unexpected hit.
So you're telling me that the studio, they didn't even really want to release this thing. It was stuck for a while. That's incredible to me.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood's a weird place, but to be fair, it wasn't like nobody wanted to release it. The studio had actually gone under, so there was no one there.
Oh, well, that's a problem. Yeah, that's kind of an issue.
not what you want.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue. It's kind of like if your director, your director
exactly.
passes away like a week before filming. That's an issue. Wow,
right.
I didn't know that. Wow, that's crazy. When in the middle of making that first Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, was there a point while you guys were making that movie, you and Keanu, when you said, wow, I think we're really onto something here. This could be something bigger than we expected. Were you guys ever thinking that while making that first movie?
I think so. I mean, we had an enormous amount of fun making it. It was Stephen Herrick, the director, was also very young, and the writers, Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, were only a couple years older than us. So it was a very young team, and Steve had a really solid vision for what he wanted to do and how he wanted to create this world, and we felt very comfortable just kind of letting it rip.
Right.
So the Bill and Ted movies have often been just real playgrounds for us. So there's a lot of, there's improv. We love the scripts, so we hew pretty close to the scripts, but we run a little wild with it physically, and that's very liberating. They're fun characters to play. It doesn't take itself seriously at all. That's fun. I think there was a point about halfway through that shoot where we kind of were like, this is kind of special. Like, I wonder if other people will get the vibe that we're getting while we're making it.
Right.
And at first we thought, hey, I guess they won't, but
right.
ultimately they did, which was really nice.
Well, it had to be a huge hit because I was at a place in Las Vegas last week called the Pinball Hall of Fame where they have all these old pinball machines. Were you aware that there is a Bill and Ted's pinball machine out there? Because I played it last week.
Of all the things I've seen, I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, I played it last week, and it was pretty good, and it made all these noises. You were a part of it as well. Well, if you ever come to Vegas, 25 cents is on me. You can play the game. But
it's very generous.
Really, still 25 cents? I figured that'd be like $80.
Well, you're right. It is, but it's the Pinball Hall of Fame, and they have all these old video games from like the 80s and 90s. It's a really cool place, and one of those pinball machines is called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It was probably made in like 89 or 90, but it's a pretty cool machine, actually. People don't know this about you. At least some people don't know it. You've done some directing. You've been all over the place. I mentioned the Broadway. You've directed some or co-directed some pretty cool music videos from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? I'm a big fan of theirs. Ice Cube. Yep. The band Extreme. Gary Sharon, right? Am I pronouncing his name right? I was a big fan of that album they had back there, More Than Words. I think I lost my virginity to that song, but that's probably too much information for you. But what was that like over the years, working with all these great artists, that just a few that I just mentioned? That's really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was always really into music, and I started doing music videos right around the time that I was doing Bill and Ted 1. I was directing a lot at that time, a lot of commercials and music videos, Ice Cube and the Chili Peppers and Helmet and Extreme, and a lot of bands. And it was a fun way to do things with, a lot of my friends were in bands, and a lot of my friends were musicians, so it was a fun thing to do, to kind of do stuff with bands that you liked. I got to go join up with Helmet on tour for a little bit and shoot them live, and it was a fun era to kind of pick up a camera and get into a mosh pit.
That's awesome.
In fact, I got my nose broken shooting a Helmet video in London.
Did you really? Oh, my God.
Yeah, I was right up against the stage with the camera, and I was like, I didn't know, I couldn't see the band. I was like, why can't I see the band? Like, someone put me, like, because your eye cup is filled with blood because your nose is split open. I was like, oh. And
that's awesome.
So, yeah, it was a crazy era, but it was a lot of fun. I was happy to do all that stuff. And there's obviously a big music component to Bill and Ted. So Keanu and I both play instruments. We both very comically play the same instrument, which is bass, which doesn't duet very well. But he went on to have a band, Dogstar, that played very seriously.
That's cool. So you talk about that era, though, right, Alex? The late 80s, early 90s, and then that's when grunge, and I grew up with that stuff as well, and I love that music. That's back in the day when MTV, and you did a show on MTV, that's back in the day when MTV actually played music videos. What do you make of music today, being a kind of a music connoisseur yourself? What do you make of MTV? It's all reality television now. We don't even see music videos hardly anymore.
I know. Well, it's a different world, right? I mean, now all of that stuff is on YouTube, and whatever exists of it are kind of in another format, and the format that we all grew up with, which is completely gone, or has changed so much it's not recognizable. But I think that videos died for a long time completely, and then they swung back in the YouTube era. I think that's mostly how people watch stuff now. And we shot a Weezer video for Bill and Ted 3.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Weezer.
And it was yeah, me too. It's a really good song. They wrote it for the film, and it's in our end titles, and it's a great anthemic Weezer song. And we had fun. Keanu and I were both in the video, and it kind of felt like the old days in that way. To sort of jump back into that world again. I was like, oh, I'm on a music video set. Wow, I really feel retro.
So, Alex, two questions for you. First one, correct me if I'm wrong, but Bill and Ted 3, basically, production finished before COVID-19 happened. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, well before.
Okay.
I mean, the movie was pretty much done through editorial when COVID hit, but they had a lot of post to do. So there was there was a little bit of a challenge getting all the post-production done. But in general, we had finished most of the movie. We just had to deal with some of the mix and some of the other stuff in post. And obviously, we had to really deal with how do you release this movie in the middle of a pandemic. Because the film had taken a long time to get off the ground, and it was very largely a fan-driven movie, and that the financiers were really motivated more than anything by how vocal the fans had been that they wanted a third movie once they caught wind that we were trying to make one. And we didn't really want to punt the movie a whole other year and make them wait another year to see this thing. So we got involved with the studio, and we're like, okay, how do we do this safely so people can see it in theaters? If theaters are safe where they are, they can watch it at home if they're not.
Right.
And my second question is, you either direct or act usually at least in one or two movies a year. How different has Hollywood been and just the movie industry since COVID started?
It's very different. I mean, everything is very different. I released a documentary on HBO in the middle of the pandemic, and that was easier because it was on just straight up on cable. And then I have a doc on Frank Zappa that I've been working on for many years, which is about to come out at the end of November, and we're hoping that there are some theaters open by then. But, I mean, the landscape we're in is very different. I think we're going to come out into a different landscape than we went into. I think the world's going to be a little different. But we all want the movie theater experience to come back.
Sure.
We all obviously want giant music concerts to come back, right? So I think that people like coming together, and I don't think that this is going to kill the movies theater experience. I don't think it's going to. I think people are probably going to go the opposite. When they can all get together, they're going to get together en masse.
I agree. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Alex Winter. Of course, he's Bill in the Bill and Ted movies. He's got a new one out. It's coming out Friday. Bill and Ted's Face the Music. I can't wait for it. So let me ask you this, Alex, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here. You know, you've always seemed to me, especially the Hollywood type, you seem to be kind of a low key guy. And then you look at Keanu Reeves and all the success he had, and you've had a ton of success as well. But it seems like with The Matrix and all that stuff, the paparazzi has been chasing Keanu Reeves around forever, and I can't imagine how annoying. Like, I see some of these videos, and I'm like, boy, I get it. It comes with the territory, but literally, I see Keanu seems like a really good dude. I'm sure you would agree. You've been friends with him forever. He seems like a pretty personable, nice, funny guy and a good dude. I just see the look on his face when you got paparazzi going after him, coming out of the airport at LAX, and he's doing his best to just ignore them and handling it well. Is that fair to say that you're more of like a low key guy? And what have you talked to Keanu about that? About how they talk about his relationships and who he's dating, and what are those conversations like with Keanu? I can't imagine. It's just got to be weird to have people following you around everywhere.
I mean, I think for any actor who is in the public eye, you end up making some form of peace with the public aspect of it. You have to. Yeah. I think the era of punching paparazzi photographers is kind of bygone because it's part of the job, and it may be a part that some are more comfortable with than others, but it is inarguably a part of the job. You have to make some kind of peace with being in the public eye. And I remember when I first started acting professionally in a way where I was interacting with the public at all, I was really young. I was like 12, 13 years old and doing Broadway shows, and you come out of the stage door and there'd be 100 people waiting for your autograph. And that's on a very kind of micro level, right? Because it's not like the world is looking at you.
Right.
But it's still disorienting, and you have to kind of adjust for that. And when Bill and Ted 1 came out, I mean, we couldn't go anywhere, at all without being swamped with people in the world. I mean, I was in France and I got it. I was in Thailand and I got it. Like everywhere I went.
How do you ever get used to that?
I think you just kind of accept it as being part of your life. And, and Keanu and I, whether we're apart or obviously when we're together, people go bananas in a specific way. But, I think he's actually really good about it. He's a pretty mild-mannered person, and he's a very polite, like naturally polite person. So
right.
He's always handled it really well. And
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, and
he's not Kanye West. He's not Kanye West. That's for sure.
I think one thing that helps as far as Bill and Ted goes is the fans themselves tend to be really nice. Like if a fan is coming up to you about Bill and Ted, they generally have a smile on their face, and so it's a little easier.
Do you ever go into your Bill character when you're talking to a fan? Do they ever ask you a request? Does it ever get annoying where they want you to be Bill?
I mean, I don't get that often. I mean, and if
Right.
I do, it's not usually from a grown up.
Honestly, Alex, I think Brian was setting you up there.
No, I wasn't.
I think he was.
I was not. But, listen, Alex, let's talk about this new movie. There are a lot of pressures to doing a sequel, and you did one in 91. Of course, it was Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which was awesome. But there's a lot of pressure, right? One of my favorite comedies growing up, Alex, besides yours, of course, was the movie Dumb and Dumber, right? Legendary flick.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest with you, the Dumb and Dumberer, the sequel, I was extremely disappointed. That's not Jim Carrey's fault. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. It's just difficult.
That might have been the worst sequel
It was bad.
in movie history.
It was very bad.
In comparison to how good the first one was.
Right, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is because, you guys were successful in 91, and I've heard some good reviews from this movie. I have no doubt it's fantastic. But it's a lot of pressure, isn't it? Isn't it, Alex, to have such a successful movie and then make another one, and now you made another one. And a lot of pressures with that, right?
I certainly look. We wouldn't have ignored the expectation and just been blasé about it. The band as it first got back together was Keanu and myself and Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, the two writers, and we made a pact with each other when we first seriously considered making a third movie that, look, if we can't make this 100% to our own creative specifications, we're just going to bail out because none of us needed to make it, and no one felt the world definitively needed another Bill and Ted movie. Right. So it was like, okay, if we can support what these guys are going to go and write, and we can make something, and we eventually got our original producer back, Scott Krupp, and then we got Dean Pariseau, the director that we most wanted. For this film, we made Galaxy Quest and a bunch of other movies that we loved. We just kind of became a very protective group around the creative.
Sure, that's important.
That's not to be cocky about it. It's not to say we know we made something great. It just meant that we attempted to make something great.
No, I mean, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you for doing that. And I'm so glad that they gave you the freedom to do that. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the plot of this movie without giving too much away. I've seen the previews of it, right? They're not your own kids, but you have people playing your kids in this movie. Bill and Ted are now fathers. So can you talk a little bit about that and the plot of this movie that comes out Friday?
It's a totally sincere look at what these two guys are like at this age. And that's the kind of sweet, grounded human part of it. We're dads, we're husbands, we're real guys. But, of course, it being a Bill and Ted movie, like a few minutes in, we're told that given that we have managed to somehow slack off on writing the song that would save the world, as we were told we were supposed to by George Carlin many years ago, we now only have about an hour and 10 minutes to pull that off, or all of space time is going to end. So now the future is not particularly happy with us anymore.
I love it.
We get a kind of cosmic gun pointed at our head, and we're told, okay, knuckleheads, if you don't write this thing now, it's the end of everything. and thus begins an adventure to we basically steal our phone booth from them, from the people we are the great leaders of the future, and we embark on a journey to figure out in what version of space-time we weren't complete losers. And it being a comedy, obviously, it takes us a while to find one where we're not complete losers, or actually far worse than any of the situations we're in at present.
It reminds me a little bit of Back to the Future meets Step Brothers, only you're going in the future meets like Step Brothers, where you got two guys that are your age that you need to get their life together. Is that kind of accurate, you think?
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think that the difference is that, Bill and Ted really aren't kind of like stunted child men.
Right.
And that's really, and that's very, very funny. Like I love Step Brothers, and I love both of those actors enormously. But we really did not want this movie to be, we're going to go back to this world that you haven't visited in 25 years, and these two characters have been frozen in time. And they're just like bro dudes as dads. We really wanted them to be the age they were, with the responsibilities they would have had at that age, love their kids, love their wives. Life has not gone the way they thought it was going to go. And that was a good jumping off point for us, for Keanu and myself, to figure out, how do you play these guys? And then, of course, the scenario we end up is completely insane and immediately takes off into this crazy direction.
Oh, absolutely. Does a hologram of George Carlin appear where he kind of tells you your destiny?
How did you know? You've seen the movie, right? I'm not going to spoil anything.
All right.
But I'm also not going to refute you.
Fair enough.
I like it.
All right,
I like it.
Alex, my last, it's not really a question here. I'm going to embarrass myself. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to try to ruin this interview now. I'm going to do my impersonation of Keanu Reeves in the movie Speed. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Tell me how I did. Okay, here we go. Dude, I don't know you, man. Get to the back of the bus. All right, so 1 to 10. Give me a rating on that. How bad was it? Be honest.
I mean, I don't want you to, literally hang up on me. Right?
I don't know you, man. Get to the back of the bus. I don't know you.
You kind of sound like Arnold.
Do I sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger?
A little bit, yeah.
You can give me a bad grade. It's okay, Alex. Did he really just hang up? Did Alex Winters really just hang up on me? Was that for real? Was that real, or was that a sound effect? Oh, sorry, Alex, if I disappointed you there. I was trying to have a good time. Did Alex really just hang up on us? I thought that was funny. I was trying to be lighthearted.
Well, no, he said that he doesn't want you to hang up on him.
Ah, I see. So he hung up on us. Maybe that was his way of saying that was really horrible. I don't know. That's okay. It's all right. Is he back on the line? Did he really hang up?
I have no idea.
Alex, did you really hang up on us there? Alex, are you there? Alex, are you back on the line with us? Did we lose Alex?
Ryan, what just happened?
I don't know what just happened there. I think that was like a Bill and Ted moment.
That was the first for us.
I think he just called back. I think that was a joke.
Did he call back?
I think that was a joke.
It'd be a great joke.
That was pretty funny. I don't think Alex was angry.
No, of course.
I don't think he was upset.
I mean, that was probably a 3. It was a 3.
It was pretty bad though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very. You have much better impressions.
For a second there,
better impressions.
For a second there, I actually thought he was pissed off, but I actually think he was just trying to be funny there because I did say it was the last question, so it's all good. It's all good. Anyway, we appreciate Alex Winter for joining us. The new movie is coming out this Friday. I can't wait. I'm going to see it myself. It is going to be awesome. It is Bill and Ted's Face the Music. And I got to tell you, I grew up with this guy. He's the best. I love Alex Winter. I love Keanu Reeves. And, I grew up with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Of course, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Again, the movie comes out Friday. It's Bill and Ted's Face the Music. I know it is going to be great. I know it is going to be funny. And I absolutely know that it is going to be a lot more funny than my impersonation of Keanu Reeves in Speed. I absolutely know that 100%.
Well, I think that's a guarantee, Brian.
Hey, I was just trying to be funny. That's all. But we just learned that was. I don't think that was intentional. Alex, do we have you on the line?
Yeah, that's absolutely hilarious. I literally said I'm hanging up, and the call died.
I said to myself,
Ow.
is Alex really? I said to myself,
you know what? I guess the answer to your question is I was going to give you a 3, but I guess God gave you 0.
I said to myself, there's no chance Alex is the kind of guy that would get angry at that. Did he really hang up the phone? Was he really pissed off, or did he hang up by accident?
And I think, Alex, you said that you were afraid that we would hang up on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what my publicist was like. Did they really just hang up on you? I was like, I doubt that.
I really thought for a moment that you might have been pissed off, and I felt really bad because I thought the interview was going very well until my stupid Keanu Reeves impersonation.
Yeah, but Brian, you played that off really well. I could not tell that.
Alex,
that's hysterical.
Well, Alex, I appreciate you calling back, and I'm sorry for my horrible impersonation of Keanu Reeves, but I will say this. I grew up watching you guys. These movies are unbelievable, and I have no doubt. I cannot wait. I will be the first person in the theater to see this movie on Friday. I cannot wait for it. And I want to thank you so much for joining us. And, man, listen, I'm not going to ask you if there's going to be another one, but if this movie makes $1 gazillion, I hope there is another one. That's all I will say, okay?
Thank you so much. It was great, you guys. Very strange, but great nonetheless.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it. You can hang up now. We can hang up. Okay.
Okay, I'm hanging up now.
Thanks,
okay.
Alex. All right. That was funny. That was an interesting moment there because that was the part of the interview where I thought, did I piss him off? That was cool.
Well, you said that you were going to ruin the interview.
Well, I
and
said it.
And then you did just a god awful
I said
impression.
it facetious.
And a 3 is correct.
I said
His
that's not
rating,
horrible.
His rating
Hey,
is
listen,
right.
I'll take a 3. He could have given me a 2.
I
Anyway, we
suppose
gotta
he
go.
could have done that.